Garden Success is brought to you in part by The Arbor Gate, featuring unusual plants, artisan-created decorative pieces, and a constantly changing array of items that bring beauty, comfort, and even flavor to the home and garden. Arbor Gate, 15635 FM 2920, Tomball, Texas, 281-351-8851 or arborgate.com.
Garden Success is also brought to you by The Farm Patch, 3519 South College Avenue in Bryan, 979-822-7209.
Welcome to Garden Success with Skip Richter, the show designed to help you have a bountiful garden and a beautiful landscape. Call in now with your lawn and garden questions at 979-845-5689 or email your questions to gardensuccess@tamu.edu. And now, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension horticulturist Skip Richter.
Hello and welcome to the show today. We are looking forward to talking to you. If you're not ready to garden now, I don't think you can get ready. This weather is unbelievably awesome. It is sunny outside. It's going to be sunny for a while. In fact, it's almost going to... I was a little disturbed to see temperatures pointing toward the upper 80s somewhere later in the week. And it's like, come on, man, we got enough hot weather coming and for a long time, so let's not start that now, but we sure do enjoy the temperatures we have now. This is the time of year when everyone's a gardener, where pretty much everything you put in the ground wants to grow. There are other times of the year that correct any mistakes we make, such as that beautiful hanging basket of fuchsia flowers that looks so good right now, and you know, you'll get to enjoy it for at least 2 or maybe 3 weeks, and then the summer arrives and it starts to struggle. I may be exaggerating that a little bit, but you get the idea. When we're planting things in the flower bed, though, you definitely want to be able to plant things that are going to survive and be able to thrive for you for a good while. We want to focus on those kind of things. Got an article coming tomorrow in the paper that's talking about a season of blooms. How do you plant a landscape so that you have blooms from January to December? And there's always something coming up. There's always something blooming. What are some of the strategies, or what are some of the plants that help us to do that? If you've moved here from another part of the country, you may have some favorites that you hope will grow here. And there's a chance, depending on where you move from, that they would. And there's also a good chance that they wouldn't. If you've come from the northern half of the country, things like hostas and I don't know, that there's a whole host of things. Some of the yews that are grown up there, the forsythia that's enjoyed so much up there. It's the lilacs. Oh my gosh, that's another one. I've been around lilacs. I understand the love of lilacs. I lived in mid-America for a few years and enjoyed the fragrance and everything. Well, the closest we can do to lilacs here is a crepe myrtle that you go out and spray with perfume every morning, so you can walk by it and enjoy the fragrance. But anyway, you want to pick things that are going to survive and do well, so you don't waste your money on other things. I like to think of landscaping dollars as an investment. Not only can it be an investment that returns year after year after year, such as with naturalizing bulbs. You plant them once and they just keep cycling around each year and doing their little show when it's their time. But also an investment that makes your house more valuable. Maybe a day will come where you want to sell it, and it would sure be nice to have a beautiful landscape that looks good, so that it's more valuable. And they've actually, this is that ubiquitous they that we don't know who they are, but studies have been done looking at the value of a tree to a home, and depending on the species of the tree, depending on, of course, the size and maturity of the tree and all of that, but trees add an incredible amount of money to the value of your home, or they can if it's a large, beautiful tree. A master gardener many years ago, probably 30 years ago, showed me a picture of a tree that he and his wife had planted when they were younger married. And it was a little scrawny little broomstick size oak that was out there beside the house. And then he went back 40 or 50 years later and took a picture of it. And it was this monster that sprawled almost the whole property. I would say it was almost like it was more valuable than the house, just the beauty and just beautiful tree. And it just reminds us that it makes sense to plant plants that want to be there, and then to prune them if they're woody ornamentals in ways that are constructive, in other words, that build a structure for that tree so that in years to come, as storms come and go, it has the best chance possible of withstanding those storms and not splitting up. And I know it's easy when you want a tree to go to the garden center, buy whatever's there or whatever your neighbor has in their yard, and maybe those are the plants you should be planting, but at least do your research and learn about what are the attributes of that plant. Is it deciduous or evergreen? Does it bloom or not? Does it tend to be long-lived and strong-wooded? Or is it the opposite of those things? We have some plants that, in fact, in the Year of Blooms article, I left out a bunch of plants, and I suspect people, are going to look at it and think, well, what about, for example, Bradford pear? We're right now enjoying the blooms of Bradford pear out in landscapes here and there. That is their asset. That is their single worthwhile purpose, is to have beautiful blooms in the spring. From there, we have a lot of yeah buts. And the yeah buts, if you live, it's not so much of a problem here, although I saw one yesterday along a stream, a wild seedling of Bradford pear. But boy, when you get up into some parts of the country, Northeast, Pennsylvania, different places up in there, Bradford pear is a very invasive. It's like Chinese tallow down on the coast. Very, very invasive plant. And down here, my biggest beef with them is they grow fast and they have narrow branch angles and they fall apart before they have a chance to get old and look beautiful. They're a tree that looks good for the first 15 years, maybe 10 years. I should limit it to that. I don't know. But a lot of it depends on how it's cared for and all of that. But that's one that didn't make my list, just because I don't think we need more of those around. Now, that's my personal opinion, and I'm sure there are people out there, including those who sell Bradford pear, that aren't that crazy about that comment. But the truth is, we do have plants that probably don't need to be planted. Ligustrums and viburnums of some types, not every viburnum, for example, but we have some types that can be invasive. They get out in the woods and they are a booger to control. Once you have them out there in the wild, it's essentially, you're not going to get rid of them unless you just invest a lot of time and money to do it. And the biggest problem is birds can peck the berries, swallow them, fly over, and then plant and fertilize in one simple flick of the tail. And now you've got them in a whole new area where you just had eradicated them. So that's just another reason not to plant those kinds of plants. But I've kind of drifted off here in a monologue, and I didn't even tell you how to call us. So maybe that would be a good idea. Our phone number, 979-845-5689, 845-5689. Or if you'd like to email, you can email me at gardensuccess@tamu.edu. gardensuccess@tamu.edu. And I try to do the emails each week when we're here at the show. I'm not here answering emails in between times. So if you email me on a Thursday and I don't get to it, it'll be next Thursday probably when I do get to it. And if for some reason you emailed and didn't get a response, please resend, because occasionally we can overlook one. Let's go now to the phones. Our number again, 845-5689, and we're going to talk to Kimberly. Hello, Kimberly.
Hey, Skip. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have two questions. The first one is I've recently sodded my yard. It was sodded in December, new grass, St. Augustine. And my question is, I'd really prefer to use more natural methods. What do you suggest for a good fertilizer to get it established?
For the St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, first of all, the best thing you want to do long term for your lawn is return the clippings. I always mulch. Right. Yes. Always return those, because that's where most of the nutrients are going to come from for that grass. Most of them. Now, fertilizer is important, and especially early on when you're trying to get it to grow and get established and things, it's helpful. But I would do it in small doses. And there are some, you mentioned you wanted something that's not synthetic. There are some natural fertilizers out there on the market. Here in the Bryan-Kai Station area, I've seen Microlife and Fox Farm that are available. And I know Microlife has a 624, and that particular blend has that 3-1-2 ratio of nutrients that most lawns are going to do well with. Now, so I would do those. Keep in mind that an organic fertilizer, in almost all cases, is going to be a slow release fertilizer, because it has to microbially decompose and get released. Those nutrients have to get released by microbial activity and into the soil. So you're not going to put it down and just see your lawn tomorrow suddenly turns emerald green. It's gonna have to grow into it. But we're not near fertilizing time for the lawns. So I say we're not near.
Mid-April.
Mid-April, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I usually do.
When your neighbors have mowed their lawn twice, yours is brand new, so it's kind of hard to gauge, but with your lawnmower.
Okay. And my second question is, I went to the natural plant sale last week and unfortunately was there towards the end, but I bought a crepe myrtle shrub, which looked completely dead, but the lady told me that no, they were fine, that once they were put in the ground, they would bloom. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Is it worth me going ahead and planting it in my bed? It has no blooms at all.
You're talking about last Saturday?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it should be alive, and okay. that should be fine. It's hard over the radio to tell you if a plant's alive or dead, but right. I saw a lot of the plants. I saw nothing that looked like any concern at all to me.
Okay.
So I definitely put it in the ground. I think you probably got a smaller statured one, right?
That's what I wanted. Uh-huh. I just wanted a small little bush. So.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope you enjoy that. Crepes now come in every size. I mean, from 3 feet to 30 feet. We've got.
Well, I've seen so many blooming lately out and about that it made me wonder. Well, maybe this one really, did take the freeze too hard or something. So.
No, I think it's fine. I wouldn't worry about it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kimberly. Our number is 845-5689 or gardensuccess@tamu.edu if you want to email a photo. Let's go to the phones and talk to John. Hey, John.
Good morning, Skip. I got two questions. One is Mary wants to know if she can plant celery in Robertson County with any success. And the other question is, I haven't seen a sign of anything on my asparagus yet. Is it still too early?
I think it's a little early. I don't have asparagus in the garden, and so I can't say I've seen asparagus popping up anywhere. Seems like we ought to have some, though, doesn't it? We're already about to jump into April here. I'm going to have to say, everybody listening, if you got asparagus, call us and let us know. Are you seeing the spears? I should be able to give you a better answer than that, John, but I just don't know.
We're still looking at ground temperatures of in the high 50s, so maybe it's just too early.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to stay with I don't know. On the celery, you can grow celery down here, and people do. It can be a little bit of a challenge at times to grow it. There's a type of celery that I grow, and it's the Asian celery. It makes a little mounding plant with petioles that, instead of being big old celery stalks that you use for dipping, it has little petioles about the size of a pencil, and you don't need much of it. In fact, one plant, and it's used as a seasoning. It's not used as a fresh eating food tray type dish. So both of those will do well here, or I know the Asian celery does really well here. And the other one, I've seen it grown, but you don't see it a lot. And I'm thinking that it's given people a little bit of a hard time. May be one of the reasons for that.
It may get too hot too quick.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What's the variety? I think it's Utah. Is it Utah, or that you see around here? Anyway, I'll look it up and see. But you guys, we're kind of getting to the end of all that type of season too, because it does pretty well when it's cooler. So I'd never tried planting it this late, but that'd be another one to find out if you want to experiment with it.
Okay, we keep we keep planting peas and beans, and I finally have put a wire over all our raised beds, because every time we plant them, come back the next day and something has dug up all the seeds and eaten them. So
yeah,
anyway, I'm hoping that this round with the wire over the beds.
Hopefully that'll work. Just give them a chance to get up and growing, right?
Yeah, because I think I don't have any problem with the transplants that I put out. It's just the seeds. I don't know if they can smell them or what, but corn particularly. I mean, I have planted corn 3 times, well, not this year, but last year, and they very carefully dig out each kernel of corn, and they're gone. So,
well, if farming was easy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I looked at in Utah is the variety I was trying to think of on the celery, and I was checking days to harvest, and I think that's the problem. 100 to 200 days to maturity.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
you'd never make it through the.
Yeah, that's a lot of time in the garden over the cool season. I just think we probably get too hot. Although again, I called it Chinese celery. I don't know that it specifically should be called Chinese celery or just an Asian type of celery. Those I've taken even into the summer, and they did okay.
But that's what it says on the seed packet is Chinese celery.
Yeah, look for Chinese celery or Asian celery, and it's going to be a little mounding plant, maybe a foot. Mine were about a foot high or so, and but it's more of a seasoning kind of plant, so you'd chop it up to put in a soup, and you won't need as much as regular celery. And celery anyway can be a little overpowering in dishes.
Yeah, we can probably just put that in the keyhole.
Yeah, it'd be a little. This one would be a little too strong to just grab one of those little stalks. Not only are they just pencil size, not that rigid to use, but if you ate it just fresh like that, it would overwhelm you in the first bite.
Well, good. Maybe that's a good seasoning then.
It is a good seasoning. It sure is.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Our phone number is 845-5689, 845-5689, or by email, gardensuccess@tamu.edu, gardensuccess@tamu.edu. I had a question come in from Jesse, and I'll just go ahead and answer this one on the air. It's a planting of things like daylilies, maybe some other bulbs, and then here comes Bermuda grass and St. Augustine grass invading. And what do you do? Can you kill one without killing the other? And so St. Augustine, as Jesse points out, is easy. St. Augustine lives on top of the ground. Its runners are all up on top of the ground. There's no underground rhizomes that are going to pop up somewhere else. So it's real easy to grab one and yank out the whole runner and be done with it. Now Bermuda grass, there is a problem. It's got the above ground runners or stolons. It's got the below ground rhizomes, and it invades rapidly and with a vengeance. And so pulling it up is not going to work. The extreme step of just basically digging up the bed, getting all of the Bermuda grass out of there, all the rhizomes and stuff, filtering through the soil, and then resetting your bulbs. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of work, but that certainly would be a no spray option. Good luck, because you're going to probably have a few you miss that you have to go back after. But the next step would be to use a spray. So when you're talking about using a spray, the products that are available are either a general weed killer, which would be something like glyphosate that kills broadleaf and grassy weeds. And so if it gets on your desirable plants, it's probably going to kill them too. Very few things can tolerate a spray of glyphosate. Even the things that would tolerate it, it'd be like they survived it. It didn't quite kill them. But the other type of ingredient are a grass-only killer. The problem is that a lot of our bulbs are very grass-like in the kind of plant that they are, and I would need to see a label to check, and if I do this off the air, maybe I'll check. What are these grass killers labeled for? And you need to read the label very carefully, because that would be my concern. A lot of our bulbs with the parallel venation and stuff, I'm just not sure that the grass-only killers are safe. In fact, I would be very suspect of that, but the label's the law, and that's where the buck stops. So check those and see. If indeed you can use the grass-only killers, those would be used in flower beds among all your broadleaf plants to kill the grassy invader weed, like Bermuda grass, out of there. So that's something to think about. That might be an option. The ingredients on those there's really two main ones that are in the home garden market. One is called fluazafop. It's Fluazifop. And the other one is sethoxydim, Sethoxydim. So look for Fluaz as the ingredient, or Cetho, that X, that's going to be the two ingredients that you're looking for. But again, before anybody goes out with anything on those, make sure you've checked that on the label. I had a question, speaking of herbicides. Melinda asked about using 2,4-D and preen in gardens, and are they safe? Are they safe for the environment? Everything that you spray has a side effect, a negative side effect. And I say this all the time because I want people to not think in terms of a good pesticide and a bad pesticide. Now, there are certainly some that are much more toxic or much more likely to get into the water systems and the creeks and things. They travel easier. There are some that are more toxic to beneficials or have more potential human toxicity. And so I'm not saying there's no difference in them. I'm just saying that every one has its drawbacks. And insecticidal soap is the best example I can think of. We bathe our bodies in soap, and it's fine for us. But when you bathe an aphid or a spider mite with soap, you kill it because of the effect of it on the waxy cuticle, the outside layers, and some other things that it can do. And so insecticidal soap, if you're a lady beetle larva or a lacewing larva, or if you're a parasitoid wasp that is developing inside of an aphid that got sprayed with soap, it's deadly for all those beneficials, even though it is we say it's the safest product we can think of. So I just want to dispel that, well, this is a pesticide you use indiscriminately, and this is one that you don't. And I realize I'm going a circuitous route around Melinda's question, but we're going to pause mid-route and take a phone call from Jim. Hello, Jim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Skip, I have a row of Vitex, I'd say 30 yards long, that I put in years ago for bees to have nectar.
Okay.
And they have, by roots or by tip layering, expanded on both sides of the original row.
Okay.
And I would like to go in and cut those extras down and lasso them and bring them out.
Okay.
And treat the stump. My question is, how close can I get to the original, treating the new stump without hurting the original? Does that make sense?
Yes. As you're asking the question, I'm thinking that Vitex doesn't root sucker. And I may be wrong about that, but I've never noticed it root suckering. What it does is reseed. And I pull up Vitex seedlings around a Vitex that I have periodically. And maybe that's what you're seeing. If it is a reseeding, then you can kill that plant with no problem at all to the mother plant. And so, in other words, there's not a connection. If it were a root sucker and you sprayed something like a glyphosate type, Roundup type product on it, it would travel and it would go back and affect the mother plant as well. It may not kill it, but it would be bad for it. But I'll say I'm 90% sure it doesn't root sucker, because I cannot recall ever seeing that.
Well, I know it tip roots.
Yes, you can tip root. It sure can. And if that's the case, then you got to sever it from the mother plant, and you ought to be able to do that because that's an above ground severing. You can see the arching branch that dropped down and started the new one, unless it's already been cut loose. And so once it's cut loose from the mother plant, then do what you want with the baby
Have
plant.
my way with it.
Have your way with the baby plant, yeah.
Thank you very much. You take a chance and have a wonderful day.
Well, Jim, let me add one thing.
Okay.
Whenever you're dealing with woody weeds, difficult to control woody weeds, the best, simplest way within a garden landscape environment is to treat the stump itself, I think, like you indicated, rather than spraying the foliage. Because when you start spraying foliage, the spray drifts or whatever, and you may end up using more product. But when you cut one of those plants off, immediately take a little foam paintbrush, one of those little cheapo foam throwaway paintbrushes, and dab a product that contains triclopyr on that stump, and it'll translocate down and kill it. And you have not sprayed every stuff all over the place. You put a few drops right there on the plant itself, and that is the best, most efficient and effective, and I'll say less damaging to anything else around it that you can do.
Okay, that's basically what I do.
Okay.
But I'm not sure I use that chemical. What I
Okay.
use is a hodgepodge of stuff I found on the shelf that I probably should have just thrown away a long time ago.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to comment on that since I don't know what the hodgepodge is, but don't tell me.
Don't tell me. Give me that product number, that chemical.
It's TRICL.
T as in Tracy.
Yes. R as in Robert.
TRI.
CLOPYR.
P as in Paul.
P as in Paul, Y, and then R as in Robert.
T as in Tiger. R as in Robert. I as in Indigo. CLOP. YR.
Yes, sir.
Triclopyr.
And for the home garden market, it'll be on the shelf, and it'll have names like poison ivy killer, brush be gone, those kinds of names. There's 100 names of it, and 100 different companies making different things. But just that's better. It's similar to what ranchers use for brush. One of the things ranchers use for brush. It's the same ingredient, but if you want to minimize your pesticide use and maximize your effectiveness, that's the way to do it.
Well, brush be gone I'm familiar with.
Yeah. It's better than glyphosate for some of our woodies.
Yeah, that's a grass killer basically, right?
No, glyphosate kills everything, but for this kind of treatment, the triclopyr is just a little bit better. And if someone's listening and they've got an acre they're trying to deal with problems on, give me a call. Let's talk, because it's going to be a little different answer. Or if you've got a very, very long fence row and you got all the things, hackberries and everything coming up in the fence row, that's another situation. We could talk about that a little bit more. It's a little bit different approach, but for what you're talking,
good.
Okay.
All right.
You're gonna have to sell me on that one, Jim.
Okay.
I know it has certain attributes. All right. Thank you for the call. Our phone number, 845-5689, 845-5689, or by email at gardensuccess@tamu.edu. All right, back to the question Melinda had about 2,4-D and preen. Are they safe for the environment? I will say this: if you use a product according to the label, I would consider it reasonably safe. Okay. Now, that is not to say that no bad could come of it. It drifts over on something else or whatever. But you don't mix it twice as strong as the label. You don't apply it at times or in ways other than what the label says to apply it. For example, I just mentioned the triclopyr as dabbing it on the cut stump or the base of that plant you've cut off. If you were to drench it, take a watering can and drench it over the top, that is not a label application, and it can get down in the soil. It can cause you some problems for your other plants, because I guarantee you your trees are in your yard everywhere. They're in your neighbor's yard everywhere, the roots. And so misapplication, that's the biggest problem. So if you're concerned about safety, then I would say number one, the labels is the law. Each of these products has its own things that it may or may not do. 2,4-D on a real hot day, especially if it's the wrong form, can volatilize and drift and cause damage to other plants that are nearby. But again, the label should warn you about those kinds of things. And some of the products that are made for southern use have a different form of 2,4-D that doesn't do that as bad. That would be my recommendation. If you don't want to use those kinds of products, there's usually another workaround for the home gardener. It's not like you have to use herbicides. There are other things that you can do. So just give us a call on the specifics, and we can answer those case by case, I think is a better way to approach it. Our phone number is 845-5689. And email gardensuccess@tamu.edu. Let's go to the phones and talk to David. Hey, David.
Hey, how's it going? I'll say good afternoon, and you're very kind not to correct all your callers who think it's morning still.
You know, I say morning myself sometimes because I don't know. I'm so far behind it's still morning for me. How about that?
Well,
that sounds like a good excuse.
That's what the problem with a show at noon. That's the problem. Well, anyway, first I'll say I picked some asparagus, not a lot, but it's a patch that I've had for probably 10 years, and I don't do a whole lot with it, but it comes back and puts some nice shoots out. And I handed one to my neighbor, and she said, "Oh," I said, "I just picked this," and I said, "Have you ever eaten it raw?" And she said, "Well, no." And she tried it and said, "Oh, I think that's even better than cooked."
There you go.
So anybody that, it is kind of a pain. You know how it is with asparagus. It kind of takes over that part of your garden. But anyway, so that's just kind of in response to your other caller. I believe it was John.
Yeah. Hey, David, let me ask you, when did you start harvesting your asparagus? Do you recall?
You mean this year?
Yes.
Oh, well, it was the first shoots didn't come up till probably 4 or 5 days ago, so not long ago.
All right. Okay.
That is, if you've ever grown asparagus, they're not there one day, and all of a sudden they're you look back and they're 8 inches tall sometimes. So they do sneak up, but they're starting to come out more now. So
good.
So anyway. Also, just a question. It's don't necessarily. It's kind of an observation question, but I've been growing Kentucky Wonder beans for a long time. The pole beans, and they're very space efficient and good on the back. If you can get a good growth on them. Actually, this year I don't even. I'm late because I just didn't get them in the ground, but I bought a couple of packets and I opened them up and I thought, oh great, I can't believe this, but they've mislabeled. They got the wrong seeds in here because they're white, and all these years I've been growing them, they've never been white. They're kind of tan. Well, so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I guess I'll just plant them anyway. They're smaller, they're white. This can't be right. Well, then I go online, and then there's supposedly some kind of version that's still supposed to be Kentucky Wonder. It was something like 191 white or something. Have you ever heard of various versions of Kentucky Wonder beans?
No, I haven't heard much about that. But I have seen Kentucky Wonders with a range of days to harvest. That's been one of my concerns with some of the original Kentucky Wonder pole beans is they took a long time to start producing, and I would end up recommending faster varieties. But then I've seen some lately that are kind of fast, and so I don't know if it's just another strain that they found. What did you say the number was on the one?
Well, there was I believe it was 191, because as I did on my online search, somebody said, I'll grow the 191 white bean one, and that's done well for me. And I'm thinking, wow. So at least it, I guess, verifies that even though the packet, and it was from one of the box stores, and it didn't say anything on it about being a different type of Kentucky Wonder. But anyway, it was just labeled as plain old Kentucky Wonder. I just thought you might have heard of this because it was. I thought for sure it couldn't be the right seed, but I guess it is. It just seems strange to me that this is sort of like a this isn't a hybrid or anything. It's been around forever. Apparently it was once called Texas bean or something, and then it got back to being called Kentucky Wonder. It's got a long history. but I've grown it for years, and I've even planted it in the fall.
Oh, did we lose you? I think we may have lost David on that. David, sorry if you want to continue that, you can feel free to call back. I was just trying to hunt that one down. I think we may have David back, so I'm paused just here for a moment. All right, David, we got you back.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Here we are.
Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm looking for that 191, and I'm not successful in finding. But I'd have to be off the air and do a little more searching. But yeah,
Okay.
the Kentucky Wonder, it gets stuck on a lot of things. There's a yellow version of wax Kentucky Wonder, and then there's
Is
Kentucky
that right?
Kentucky Blue Pole, and people throw all these names. I like a couple of the flat potted pole beans too. McCaslin is a really good one. And oh gosh, what is the other one? McCaslin.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, the standard one that I've grown for years is actually slightly flat.
Mm-hmm.
The picture of the white one appears to be round.
Okay.
So it's probably going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I won't keep any longer. I just was kind of wondering about that. The big deal with me is that I really like the flavor. I've had a lot of green beans and fresh out of the garden. My dad used to grow them all the time, and they were okay. But if you've never had Kentucky Wonder beans, and it may be true for the Bush style too,
Mm-hmm.
you should really try it, or I would encourage your listeners to try it, because they have a distinctive, much I don't want to say stronger flavor, but it's a much more pronounced flavor that is just really good. I've had people say, I've never had beans like these before, and it was always in a very complimentary manner. So I will just throw that out. I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm going to find out for the first time what the white bean version is like. I'll report back if I get anything.
Okay.
But I have not had that much trouble with them not producing before it got too hot or whatever. They've done very well. I've usually given bunches away and frozen some and so on. So, which I'll make one more quick comment on that. A lot of people, of course, read and you got to blanch if you're going to freeze, and I've done that. But for some reason, I've just reading some other things. I decided I'm going to be lazy. I just froze them without blanching, and they were very good. So even months later, if anybody thinks that's too much trouble, you can try freezing some without blanching, and sure enough, they held up really well. So, which surprised me, but I had read that online that you don't really need to blanch them. I tried that with sugar snap peas, and they were a disaster. They were like nasty mush, but the beans held up. So I'll let you move on to other things, but I wanted to mention about the asparagus and about my bean mystery, but it's, I guess, not as mysterious as I thought. I thought it was just strictly one variety, and that was it. But apparently, as you said, the name has been stuck to more than one actual version of it.
Yeah, it kind of has. And I did find, by the way, I did find a research base from the University of Georgia Ag Extension that talks about the 191.
Really?
It doesn't.
Good or bad?
Good. I mean, it just describing them. Pods 6 to 10 inches long, slightly rough, thick and wide, and the seeds are white on 191. So I believe that may be what you.
Surprised me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was absolutely sure that they had mislabeled, that they had messed up at the where they were producing these seeds and put the wrong seeds in there, because I think that at least happened at least once in my life where the package was wrong. But anyway,
okay.
So
well,
thanks.
Let us know how they do. I'd be curious to hear back from you on that.
I will. Okay. Enjoy your show. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Our phone number is 845-5689, 845-5689, or by email at gardensuccess@tamu.edu. Well, let's see. We are on the verge of April, so let's talk about things going on around town in April. upcoming kinds of activities. The Rio Brazos Audubon Society is inviting the public to come to their monthly meeting on Wednesday, April 13th at 6:30 p.m. at the Brazos Valley Museum of Natural History on Briarcrest Road, just to the east of the bypass. The program is going to be Ecology and Natural Resource Teaching Area, College Station's Naturalist Paradise by Dan Robinson, property manager for 750 acres of grassland, oak savanna, and oak woodland that's owned by Texas A&M. So I would suggest you give that a shot if that sounds interesting to you. Ecology and Natural Resource Teaching Area, the Rio Brazos Audubon Society, and that's Wednesday, April 13th at 6:30 out at the Brazos Valley Museum of Natural History on Briarcrest Road. Let's see, they're also going to be doing a site visit on April 16th, 3 days later, and they can tell you more about that at the first meeting, or you can go hunt them down on the web and find out from them there. But coming up sooner, April 2nd, the Lions Extension Club's annual spring plant sale will be this Saturday, just a couple days from now. They're going to have a selection of plants, including pass-along plants. By the way, pass-along plants are plants where I dig them up from my yard and I divide them and give them to people to plant in their yard. I'm passing them along, and a lot of plants have been moved around that way over the years, become part of that heirloom plant network. But you don't have to have an heirloom to have a pass-along plant. There'll be yard sales and bake items, and this is out in Somerville at the American Legion Hall on 8th Street, 730 8th Street in Somerville. The pass-along plant out there, and it starts at 8:30 in the morning, goes to 3 p.m. The Lions Extension Club annual spring plant sale. Now, on April 12th, which is a Tuesday, the Brazos Valley Rose Society is meeting, and one of our master gardeners, Sandy Lovering, will be talking about fairy gardens, and that's a noon meeting of the Brazos Valley Rose Society. For more information, for directions on the location and everything, get your pen. You should always listen to this show with a pen and paper nearby, because who knows, you might hear something you want to write down. The phone number for the Brazos Valley Rose Society meeting information is 778-4252. 778-4252. So those are some things that are coming up really soon. We always like to talk about some of the out and about kinds of things as well. On April 2nd, the DeGallery First Saturday Art Fair on North Rosemary and Bryan, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's where we've talked about this before, but they have visual artists, showcase painting, sculpture, photography, jewelry, handcrafted items, live music, and on and on and on. For more information, just go to the website DEGALLERY, DeGallery, DEGALLERY.us. On Saturday, April 9th, that's a week from Saturday, the Wildflower Day at Boonville Heritage Park. You can identify wildflowers and create your own unique wildflower masterpiece. There's going to be an opportunity to interact with some of our local artists and organizations. Watercoloring, color pencil. When we say create a masterpiece, we're not talking about picking it to go home and show mom. We're talking about taking watercolors and color pencils and all kinds of things for you to go out and do some drawing yourself out at that event. And also on Saturday, April 9th, and following on April 10th, the Chapel Hill Bluebonnet Festival, the official state of Texas Bluebonnet Festival, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., April 9th and 10th, out at Chapel Hill. You can enjoy the landscapes through the area, family-friendly festival. There'll be live music, arts and crafts and other things. Parking is $10, and just you can do a Google search for it, go to the Chapel Hill Historical Society, all one word, chapelhillhistoricalsociety.com, and find out how to get to that one. There's a lot of other events going on around the community. Maybe if we can get back to them, we'll catch some of those in a moment. But for now, let's go to the phones and talk to Brian. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Skip. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Sent you an email earlier about needing some bushes 12 to 15 feet high, 10 to 15 feet high, colorful and evergreen to block a backyard neighbor. along my fence line in College Station.
Okay.
And I know y'all don't like the red tip photinias because of blight or something.
A fungal leaf disease.
Yeah, but if I don't overwater them, can I get away with those and Texas sage both?
Okay. Well, you said 10 to 15 feet high. Let me ask you: are you? I'm not questioning you, I guess, but I just want to make sure you're really sure it needs to be that high, because we can block a lot of views with a shorter hedge than that. Now, depending on where you're sitting and where the eyesore is and how close to the fence line and all that, it affects it. But I just want to make sure we got to get something that high.
Yeah, we do, because the next door neighbors built up on a higher level than my backyard.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
I know you like hollies.
Well, sometimes.
I know there was much
sometimes
color for those.
No, sometimes, and it depends on the holly and the site. There are a lot of sites around here where holly is not a good choice. So the red tip is an option. There's also just a standard Fraser photinia, that it gets very tall, very large. The problem, Brian, is that as plants get taller, they usually get wider. And so you end up giving up a lot of property line trying to get the height. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
A lot of things can be pruned, but now you're trying to prune a 10 to 15 foot high wall.
Right.
And so that becomes a problem. So then that leads us toward more narrow, upright, or columnar types of growth habits. And then you're buying a whole lot of plants, because you may be putting plants 4 feet apart. And so when you go down that property line, you're running out of pages in the checkbook trying to get all that purchased and set out. And then there's the rate of growth. I think I would like a little more time than just shooting from the hip on the air for that.
Not a problem. You've got my email.
Oh, I did? I was looking when you said that, and I don't...
I sent it earlier. If not, I'll send it again.
Okay, resend it, please, because I looked and I didn't see it. Let me ask you some other questions. Is the soil sand, silt, clay? What kind of soil do you have?
It's typical clay type.
Okay.
But I've tried to put a built-up bed there, but yeah, it's still got clay in it. I mean, I was cleaning it out from the kill a couple years ago, and there's still a lot of clay in there.
Okay, and how does the site sit in terms of drainage? I know it's not going to go downward because of the clay, but is it a high spot? Is it a low spot where water tends to collect after a rain?
It doesn't collect there, no. It's not a high spot either, but it doesn't collect water, no.
Okay. Well, the first probably 5 to 6 plants that come to mind, I think for one reason or another, you're probably not going to want. Generally, either they're too big overall, or they're too slow growing. One strategy, and you kind of have to use your imagination on this, but people will use like a cattle panel, a livestock panel on posts to get a taller wall and putting a vine on it. Vines can be very fast growing, and if you get an evergreen vine, you can create a pretty good screen that covers that quickly, while some plants that you've planted below then grow up and maybe take its place over time. So it's like a 2-level type of thing. So that is just a strategy to consider. You may just in the visual of that go, yeah, that's not going to work. And so, but I'll throw that out there.
More likely, my homeowners association might say that.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh yes.
With deed restrictions.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. That is true. The other problem with some of our taller, thin things is some of them are deciduous, and that therefore they just don't. They don't give you your screen year-round, and you want it year-round. A lot of the junipers that we have are so prone to problems with fungal blights of their scaly-like foliage, or bagworms, which eat their foliage. And once you lose a foliage in a section of a juniper, it doesn't come back. That plant has just got this dead hole in it now. And so I'm not crazy about using those. There's clumping types of bamboo. They don't run, they clump. So think about in terms of weeds and grasses, we've got pampas grass that's a clumping, and we've got Bermuda grass that's a running. So we're talking about something that the clump gets bigger, but in time, but it doesn't, take off and go everywhere.
I've had to fight bamboo before. I'm not real high on bamboo.
Right, the runners especially, but the clumpers are nice, and they can be an option. The bamboo, it's going to be about the third year before you really get some upright growth on it to speak of, and so that's probably not a good plan.
By the way, I can always hire, and I do hire young Aggies to help me with tall pruning.
Okay. All right. Well, there are some yaupons that go upward pretty nicely. One called Scarlet's Peak that you might want to go and look at. There are some yaupons that are weeping. They go up and the branches hang pendantly downward. Yaupons are an evergreen, and that would be a possible option for you on that site. My favorite thing to recommend for screening is just our eastern red cedar, but that's a wide plant, and it's just not I'm sure not going to be acceptable for that situation. And then your clay soil is going to run out a lot of other things. So I've just spent a long time going through a lot of reasons why a lot of plants may not work.
And you said that the last one was an eastern red cedar?
Yeah, eastern red cedar. It's the wild cedar you see around here. When it's small, it looks like a little Christmas tree. As it gets older, it gets very large in a long period of time. But it can be sheared, and it can be kept in somewhat of a shape, and it has a pretty decent growth rate, but I think the long term of it is you may want to have them coming out at a few decades down the line.
Okay. One last important factor I didn't put in is I hope to have a pool in the backyard someday, so something that doesn't have a lot of abundance of leaves. The leaves that fall off.
Right. So every plant's leaves fall. Evergreen, deciduous, they all have leaves that fall.
Right.
When you're in the juniper or cedar type thing, that's little scaly things that just drop straight down pretty much. When you're looking at something like a large leaf, sycamore kind of thing, then you got a giant leaf that's flying around. I'm just not off the top of my head. I need a little more time. Send me that email. Let me see if I can come up with something, but I can tell you it's going to be a
Peak, yaupon, and eastern red cedar.
Yeah, and I don't think the eastern red cedar is a good idea. I can't see your property, how far, how wide, from the property line to the patio kind of thing, and but I'm for a more of a rural property, a ranchette kind of thing. I think it would be an option, but maybe not for you. But anyway, send me when you email, if you could send a picture of the kind of the view of what you're wanting to hide, and I get a feel for how far it is. I think I can do a better job of coming up with something for you.
All right, I will grab a picture. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Love
Brian.
the show. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. 845-5689 if you'd like to join us on the air. 845-5689. And let's see, some other things going on around and about. This is wildflower season, and I mentioned the festival or the activity going on, Wildflower Day at the Boonville Heritage Park and the Chapel Hill Bluebonnet Festival. Just getting out and taking a drive through the countryside. It's so beautiful to be out there. The bluebonnets have just gotten going pretty good, and we've got a lot more bluebonnet to come. Probably another couple of weeks are really good blooming, and then it'll continue on after that. But getting out and driving, going out Highway 50. Out toward Brenham direction, just enjoying, then crawling around out in the backwoods of Chapel Hill and all of that is kind of fun drive as well. When you're heading down south, John Ferry Garden, which is in Hempstead, Texas, and it's jfgarden.org, is going to have open day guided tours that leave on the hour at 10 a.m. and at 11 a.m. And you want to arrive early so you can sign in. If you're a member, it's free. Non-members is $10 for the tour, but you will get to see a lot of stuff. And that's on Saturdays all through April. In fact, all but I believe the 16th. It's the 2nd, 9th, 23rd, and 30th of April are listed as days at the John Ferry Garden. Some of y'all went down to a recent festival down there and got to enjoy that. Let's see, some other things going on. Well, some of the other stuff is pretty far out, so I think we'll save and hold it for now. I wanted to go back and touch on something else. We had another email question that is now. Oh, I know what it was. Elizabeth has a pothos that was outside on the porch, and it was outside where it could be reached by deer. And sure enough, the deer came in and decided to prune it and ate one side of it off. And so the only vines that are left are kind of in the middle. And the question is, will they resprout? And pothos can resprout a new shoot at the base of a leaf. Where that leaf attaches to the vine, it can send out a new shoot. Now, if it's been pruned, you ought to get some new shoots that come out in that area. If not, what I would do is I would take vines from elsewhere on the plant and kind of thread them through over the top in between the leaves and have them kind of hang down, come down off that side, and they will begin to fill in pretty quickly. When you get long denuded areas of pothos vine, they don't tend to re-leaf at all. Sometimes you get shoots and sometimes you don't in time, but the period of time that it's ugly is just a little bit long. And I've had pothos before that got long, scraggly, stringy. I forgot to water it, and so a bunch of leaves turned yellow and had to be pulled off or dried up and shriveled. And then I've got this kind of wiry looking pothos, and I just gave it a haircut, and I mean just sheared it back to wherever the good foliage was, and let it resprout and come back out again. And then all those sections that you cut off, you can put about 20 of them in a little container of potting soil and keep it moist, and they'll root. Make sure the nodes, that the node is where it's along the vine where a leaf comes out. That's the node. Make sure those are in contact with the soil. They can be slightly under the soil, but basically in contact with the soil, and they'll root there. And you will soon have a new full plant getting started from all those chopped off vines. So I've been in restaurants where they trained them along the wall, and it just looked like a rope that went like 4 feet, and then there'd be a leaf, and another 3 feet, and there'd be a leaf. And I don't know, I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I don't behold beauty there. So anyway, our phone number, 845-5689, 845-5689, or by email, gardensuccess@tamu.edu, gardensuccess@tamu.edu. I think we're about running out of time here, so we'll just say we're looking forward to talking to you again next Thursday. We're here every Thursday to answer your gardening questions, and midweek you can catch me at the Extension office. We'll be happy to assist you from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension.
You've been listening to Garden Success with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension horticulturist Skip Richter. Join us again next week as Skip discusses your questions about gardening and landscaping in the Brazos Valley.
Garden Success is brought to you in part by the Arbor Gate, featuring unusual plants, artisan-created decorative pieces, and a constantly changing array of items that bring beauty, comfort, and even flavor to the home and garden. Arbor Gate, 15635 FM 2920, Tomball, Texas, 281-351-8851, or arborgate.com.
Garden Success is also brought to you by the Farm Patch, 3519 South College Avenue in Bryan, 979-822-7209.